was the beginning of summer. People were going out, having a good time, having a laugh with their mates, cruising around, seeing friends. About 5 in the afternoon, two brothers jumped in their car and went over to Napier to see a girlfriend. They'd had a few drinks and went for a drive to Hastings. Around 9, the boys decided to head off to Miani to the Speedway on Brookfields Road. William's driving, Teru Phillips and Richard Harmer in the back seat. In the front passenger seat was Willie's brother, Daryl Thomas. His mates called him Jared. My name is Ian Chain. I'm a police officer stationed at Napier. I'm also a crash analyst with the Hawke's Bay Serious Crash Unit. At about 9:30 p.m. on Saturday the 1st of December 2007, I attended a serious crash on Brookfields Road, Pakowhai. Jared Thomas is a survivor of that crash, and I'd like to introduce Jared to you today.
I grew up in Central Hawke's Bay. Went to Hastings Boys. Played a bit of rugby. We were just having a few drinks. Go around to a party, then meet the other guys, which I met before. And then just drinking with them, and just another Saturday night.
Willie was very proud of that car. He wouldn't let anyone else drive it, even when he had had a few drinks. As the car came onto Brookfields Road, William sped up. On the straight between Pakowhai Road and Sissons Road, the car was travelling at about 180 kilometres an hour.
We come down Brookfields Road, 180. Car was cutting out. We seen the corner coming. This goes, watch me drift. Didn't make it around. I remember feeling the car going one way, going back to the other. And it happened so quick, you could even realise what had happened. The hands over the face and arms. After going through the barriers, shatters of glass. And that was it.
We're on the corner of Brookfields Road and Sissons Road in Pakowhai. In this direction, about a kilometre or so to the south, is Pakowhai Road. This is the scene of the collision. Just prior to the collision, Nissan Safira was travelling towards us, doing approximately 180 kilometres an hour. We know this because the fuel cutout was cutting in and out, causing the car to misfire. The vehicle has entered the corner going into a slide. The back has come round, crashed through the barriers and collided with this tree here. The driver's side has hit the tree with such force that it spun the car through the air, causing the car to hit a tree further down into the left side of the car, the passenger side. The force of the impact has wrapped the car around the tree. At the time of the collision, this tree was grown almost to the ground, obscuring it. Just through the trees, approximately 10 metres away, it was a deck where people were having a party. There's approximately 30 people. They've heard a noise, come out, been unable to locate the car under the tree, but found 3 people lying on the ground.
Hi, my name's Mike Hughes, and I was one of the 30-40 people at the house where this accident happened. I was attending a birthday party of my brother-in-law's, and while we were there about 9 o'clock or soon after, just after it got dark, there was this almighty crash. We went running to the scene. You can't get to it directly, so we had to go around the shelter belt where this, obviously a car had hit. And we went around about past the letterbox, and while we were some way away from the car, we stumbled across this body, almost fell over it, and there was a man there who was unconscious. We checked him out, and we put him in the recovery position, left him with a couple of people in the name of trying to get closer to the scene of where it all happened. Before we even got to the car, we found yet another person, and that person seemed a lot worse off than the first guy. And I tried to check him over, put him in recovery position. His breathing was struggling, and it actually, he stopped breathing, and I tried doing CPR on him. My brother, who was beside me, said, "Do you hear something?" And we could. We went closer to the car, and when we went there, we saw the driver. We didn't know it was him at the time, but there was someone hanging out of a car, and he had his leg trapped against the pedal and a whole lot of metal. We were able to, we probably did damage to his leg, but we were able to drag him away from the car, and we took him closer to the house just to lie him down and tend to him, and went back to the car. And blow me down, there's Jared still murmuring, little bits of words saying, help me.
Jared was in more trouble than he realised. He was trapped in the extensively damaged car and couldn't be removed. He had extensive neck injuries, and if things couldn't get any worse for Jared, the car and tree caught fire.
He was coming in and out of consciousness, talking to us, we think. He sort of knew we were there, and just checking him out, my experience told me that he had something wrong with his spine to some degree, as well as some other injuries.
People in the party have then given him assistance and also created a chain gang, getting water and whatever they could get hold of from the swimming pool around the back of the house, and kept the fire under control. I believe their actions are the only reason Jared survived the collision. Willie, the driver, was hanging out the driver's door of the vehicle. He was critically injured. Both rear seat passengers had been thrown out the back window of the car. Te Uru Phillips had serious head injuries. Richard Harmer was dead.
I'm Paul Dunstall, Dunstall's Funeral Services in Napier. I've attended many, many road accidents, and it doesn't get any easier. It has become far more prevalent, the speed and the alcohol-related deaths that we are having on our roads now. One thing that hits you is shocking or disgusting smell of the mixture of blood and alcohol, and it's something that just stays with you. And then you look a little further and you suddenly realise that it's a younger person, and you think then that this person belongs to somebody. We slowly leave the scene and move to the mortuary in Hastings, and then with the help of the police, the person is removed from our stretcher onto a mortuary tray.
It took approximately an hour to cut Jared out. He was then taken to Hastings Hospital. Te Uru Phillips, the other rear seat passenger, spent 3 months in induced coma on life support in ICU. He was then transferred into a ward for 12 months where he was monitored constantly. He then spent a year in a rehabilitation centre for brain injuries.
I'm Corrine, I'm a registered nurse at the Hawke's Bay Emergency Department. We get a call through from the ambulance and they ring us and tell us what exactly is coming in. If it's what we call a Stat 1, which is somebody that's fighting for their life basically, we put out a call right around the hospital, and it's a code red. Everybody just all piles into ED, and basically we wait for the ambulance to come in. Yeah, it is really hard. It's hard on everybody. The family just want to see their family member, but we can't always let them in there to see them. If it's heading that way that they're not going to survive, we've usually called the family members in by then, and they're in what we call a quiet room, and the doctors will go down and tell the family members that it's not looking very good. They'll keep them informed. They then will come back to the patient, and if we do lose them, it's horrible because you know that you've done everything you can, but you just can't save them. And then it's a life of somebody that hasn't even lived. Then, the family come through and you see their tears and their cries, and it's really horrible, and it basically subdues the whole department.
We're at the Hawke's Bay Hospital mortuary. This is where the deceased are brought from car accidents. The undertaker will bring the deceased to the front of the building. They'll be brought around in a trolley and placed on one of these trays. Upon being placed on the tray, the deceased is stripped of all personal items, including clothing, and their body is examined for anything suspicious. They then have an identity tag fitted. An autopsy is most likely going to be required in a case of an auto accident. The deceased will then be picked up from here quite early the following morning, usually about 5 o'clock, and taken down to Palmerston where a post-mortem takes place. They're then returned the same day. This is the chapel connected to the mortuary at Hawke's Bay Hospital. This is where we'll bring the deceased in for family members to view. This has to be done as a matter of law to identify the body. Also the family want to view their deceased, their loved ones. A lot of work can often go on after a car crash to make the person presentable. This can involve cleaning up blood but also covering parts of the body that have been badly injured. The worst part of dealing with a fatal car crash is not the time I spend at the scene dealing with the dead bodies. By far the worst part is dealing with the families that are left behind and the intense grief they are suffering.
Kia ora, I'm Stephen Harmer. I'm Richard's big brother. Richard was in a car crash in 2007. He was a backseat passenger and he died at the scene. I remember getting the call early in the morning. I'm not sure who it was, but they says that they have reason to believe that Richard was at the hospital in the chapel, and I was turn up and confirm that, you know, yeah. And I thought that he might have been hurt or something, but I could just tell by the voice that it wasn't good news. Yeah. So on my drive down, I was hoping for the best. When we went into the chapel, they had under a sheet, and there was a lot of blood around. I remember that. It was like a tray that he was lying on, like a stainless steel tray thingy, and it just had pools of blood like it just happened, you know. And he was still bleeding from the back of the head at that point. And then they pulled the sheet away, and it was definitely him. I just remember feeling like a block of concrete, you know, just couldn't even move. And I think from that reaction, they knew that, okay, there must be, it must be Richard. Yeah, and then straight away I thought, well, I was pretty cut. Like, you know, obviously I was beside myself, and then I thought, does that mean I have to tell everyone, you know? And I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to ring everyone up and give them the bad news. Not a job that I wish upon anyone, really. That's the worst news you could ever tell anyone, especially parents, you know, yeah, and people that were closest to them, brothers and sisters. Someone had to do it, yeah. I remember after everyone sort of came to have a visit, me being the first to find out, I sort of had to greet everyone at the door, or at the entrance to the chapel, which is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. That's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. A Māori thing for us to do, you know, we do the haka to help us deal with the pain, whether it be victory, whether it be sad, whether it be a celebration. It's a way to let out our emotions and kind of deal with them on the spot. So me and a couple of my brothers took our t-shirts off and just went hard, you know. And I remember just screeching and screaming till I had no voice left. And we kept going until we couldn't see that car no more. We knew that the hardest part was to come. I remember waking up, machines going off, going back to sleep. While I was in hospital, my girlfriend had a baby. I was like a newborn baby too.
This crash highlights the choices that can be made. That night many choices were made. One was to drink, another was to drive. The occupants of the vehicle made the choice of getting in the car. Making the right choice can change the outcome. Out of the 4 guys in the car that night, Jared was the lucky one. But how lucky is he? He's getting on with his life, but it's not an easy life.
Wake up about 8 o'clock. Caregiver's already there. Just yell out. We'll give him a phone call. Tell him come down and starts from there. I get into a sling, which is hooked up to my hoist. I get hoisted from the sling, from the bed, into my chair. Which usually could take up to 10 minutes. The medication is the first thing I take before I get started on basically the chair. Yeah, when I first got in the chair, I was taking up to 80 a day. When I first got in, there was a lot painkillers and stuff like that. Physiotherapist comes in. We do sessions with her, which could take an hour and a half. I get driven around just wherever I need to go from carer. Platform takes me, lifts me up, and then into the van. Then we put straps from the wheelchair that straps me to the van. Chairs are big independence for me. Without it, I'm stuck at home. Whether it's on a bed if I don't have it. It's big dependence not only on my life, but my boys as well. He comes with me wherever we need to go, whether we go by ourselves or by van. So it means a lot to get me places just where I need to go. It's been good coming in, doing what I'm doing, and talking to kids, and just letting them know what's happened to me, so they're not in the same position that I went through. Just know how impacting it is, not only on me, as well as the other families that were involved. When you drink, you don't plan the next step. People just drink, and then they go. Doesn't matter of all means on how they go. But the best thing is, if you drink, is need to plan how you get home safely, so you don't end up like we did that night. Tell them whether he's your brother or your mate, you're too pissed to drive.
For some, it's too late to learn the lessons about what went wrong. For others, there's daily reminders of what happened, the impacts of that night. For the people affected by the Brookfields crash on Saturday, the 1st of December, what happened is a pretty typical Saturday night ended with a series of events that changed all their lives forever. When you're in a situation where there's drinking and driving, it's pretty simple. Ask yourself, what's next? What happens when the car reaches 180 kilometres an hour? What happens when the driver loses control? What happens after the car hits a tree and catches fire? It's a hard-hitting message, but it's not complicated. Sober driving is the only way to go.
Choices were made that night that affected all our lives. I made the wrong choice that night. Make sure you guys make the right one.
Letter was to my nephew Richie Starr. So was taken swiftly when they crashed up the car. December 07, you left and flew up to heaven when I heard the news. Damn, man, I didn't know what to do or what was true. I saw him yesterday, it's impossible. But now he's lying in the chapel at the hospital. Then it hit my thoughts ahead, apart from being cut. That's how I would tell all the loving people that helped to bring you up. We did everything together, played ninjas on the roof. You were such a goof, especially how you had those missing tooths in the front. And just to be our brothers all you want. And I know that picked you up when you feeling down in the dumps. Yeah, you was my #1 fan back in the days when it started out rapping on the tapes. And now I cracked it on the page. Now I put that action on the stage. It's cause of your support that I'm still rapping to this day. Little brother, I miss you.
Just know that you're a part of me. Whatever I do in my life, just wanna make you proud of me. Cause sooner or later we realize we don't know what we got till it's gone. We don't know what we got till it's gone. Yeah, yeah. So don't wait for tomorrow, cause tomorrow may never, may never, may never.
And this is to my nanny Mary Picker, my nanny Honey Bunch. I wish I had've known you better, but never really got the opportunity. But you to me, yeah, everything. The sweetest song that I can sing, it'd be the bomb if I could bring. You're more up to have something from you, or even pass on something like your wedding rings. Nannies, I mean, it's everything. How mom and dad were both far-eyed, but it ain't my business to ask why. Learn about my family tree, you had to be my state of mind before. Was it there to be taking it all too casually? But I'ma do something about it now, Nanny, and I know that you'd be glad to see.
Just know that you're a part of me. Whatever I do in my life, just wanna make you proud of me. Cause sooner or later we realize we don't know what we got till it's gone. We don't know what we got till it's gone. Yeah, yeah. So don't wait for tomorrow, cause tomorrow may never, may never, may never.
And this is for my father still here. Just know we still care, especially on my real friends. You never know what lies around the corner. Experiences try to warn you, but you do what you want anyway. Living in between many days, we gotta stop being complacent, help each other and mahi up toward better days. The keys to educate, we are the revolution right now. So watch my Hori get skilled up and levitate. And to my firstborn, Tanikaha, always remember that Papa's got you and always look after your mother. To the ones I hold truest in my heart, ones that knew it from the start, I can do it. And to my future family and wife, I vow to you my life until death do us part. That's my letter to the stars, yeah, yeah.
Just know that you're a part of me. Whatever I do in my life, just wanna make you proud of me. Cause sooner or later we realize we don't know what we got till it's gone. We don't know what we got till it's gone. Yeah, yeah. So don't wait for tomorrow, cause tomorrow may never, may never, may never.